Welcome back. You're watching Have You Heard? We are so excited to be talking with you. I'm Coach Heidi Kay, and I'm here with my amazing co-hosts, Verdell and Orlandina, and we are talking about some really interesting stuff here. So we've been chatting about all the breakups and divorce that has happened during this COVID period. And not only breakups and divorce of romantic relationships, but also other types of relationships that have undergone tension and stress during this time and kind of people distancing. So let's talk about a bit of success strategies on moving on and what that can look like for us. So when I work with my coaching clients around moving on, one of the exercises I take them through is I ask them the following question. What is one thing that you can do now that you felt held back from in your previous relationship? And you notice I phrase it that way, you felt held back from. So rather than placing blame, even if there's plenty of blame to go around, it's great to take the responsibility so that you can have the power to transform, okay? So what is it that you felt held back from in your previous relationship that you can now do? Name one thing. So what do you ladies think about that strategy for successful moving on?
I thought that I think that's a great strategy, just because I like the way it allows you to take ownership of your role in the breakup. Because when you take ownership, that means you recognize your hand in it, and that means you can make a change as well. When you don't take ownership, that means you don't recognize, that means you can't change and move forward and take a better you, a wiser you into a future relationship.
And I think it's goes like transparency. So when you're in certain relationships, sometimes you can't be your authentic self. So I think that allows you to recognize that there's value in who you are, and you can be your authentic self, and that's okay.
Yeah. So we want to take responsibility if we were not our authentic selves, unless we're talking about extreme situations. In typical situations, sometimes we pick up another person's energy of judgment. Maybe they make a face or they roll their eyes, or we can sense disapproval, and that makes us feel held back. But we don't need to be held back even when someone disapproves. So now when we're moving on from the relationship, what can we do differently, whether it's big or small? So, clients come up with all kinds of answers. Maybe they felt held back from losing weight. Now they can do it. They felt held back from going back to school for a new profession. Now they can do it. They can parent differently. They can relate to their friends differently. They can socialize differently. So many opportunities arise within that painful challenge of a relationship transforming.
Absolutely.
So it can be really empowering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in addition to romantic relationships and friend relationships, I'm gonna, from my experience, I know that I had a change in relationship when my children became of college age, when they were getting ready to go to college. I felt, when they're with you, that's your role, your mom. So what I had to do once that relationship kind of changed, it wasn't severed, but it did change. I had to figure out who I was and figure out things that I like to do. And I started engaging in activities that really, again, I go back to that authentic self that really matched the things that I wanted to do that I felt I couldn't do because I didn't have the time or the energy to do those things.
Right. For whatever reason, you felt held back, and now you could do it. Exactly. So that's amazing. I love the way that you're applying it to that situation. It's a real creative way of applying the strategies. Yeah. Another great strategy is really looking at our confidence has taken lumps and bumps. Our self-esteem has dropped sometimes when we're going through a transition of a relationship, a breakup, a divorce, or many other situations where we've taken a little bit of lumps and bumps. So one of the exercises that I use is I ask clients for homework. to create a list of 20 positive traits about themselves. 20 traits, and sometimes people are taken aback. Oh my God, I can't think of 20 traits. I'm never going to be able to do that. But every one of them does. You can do it. You don't have to do it in one sitting. You can, come back to it day after day, ask people who hold you in high regard what they would put on there. And if it resonates with you, put it on there. We don't often do this. We don't often celebrate what's positive about ourselves. We surely zero in on what's negative, but we don't celebrate the positive. So important to do that when we're looking to move on after a relationship. What do you girls think about that?
Yeah, I was thinking, I'm like, this is a great way for you to kind of reassess to see what your strengths are. Because like you said, your confidence is taking bumps along the way. If you ended a romantic relationship, you may not feel worthy. You may not feel beautiful. You might be like, oh my God, who else is going to want me? So it's great for you to see what you have. Like, you know what? I bring a lot to the table. And I think that it's so difficult for us to actually find positive things. We're so quick to point out all the negatives that right there is a show in itself. Why is it so difficult for us to find those positives in ourselves? So I think it's a great way to try to assess who we are, what we bring to the table, so that we know, okay, these are the areas I need to work on. But man, I've got all these amazing qualities that I can bring into the next relationship.
Yeah, let's do a show on it. Write it down.
Yeah. Why is it so hard for me to find something good about myself?
There you go.
If you're in that state, how do you even begin the process of writing 20 things that you feel good about yourself?
Yeah.
Because, breakups they're hard.
They can be devastating. So it's like I always say, start with a baby step. Start with one trait, one positive trait, and think about, kind of what are the positive traits that are expressing themselves during this breakup. Your resiliency is coming out, your strength, your determination. You never know how strong you are until you have to get through something rough. So sometimes those are the first traits that people come out with, and then we can take it from there. Sometimes I help them along a little bit. Even if I've only been talking with somebody for 10 minutes of a session, I can already pick up positive qualities. And so that can be helpful to them. So that can be great. Another terrific way of helping to move on, is we ruminate when we're going through a breakup or a divorce of any kind of relationship. Could have said, would have said, everything that was done to me, and so much negativity going through our heads, and that becomes sort of our whole world. And so we want to look for opportunities to go outside of ourselves. Look for ways to change the world in some small way to add purpose and meaning. So whether it's helping somebody who doesn't feel well, a friend who's not well, or volunteering, or doing something charitable, or getting involved in a political movement, whatever it's going to be that gets you out of that very inward pull. Yeah. What do you think about that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a great pull, because one of the things is when, like you said, when you are in that space, you're in that circle. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, but didn't. Should I have done this? Should I have said this? Should I have taken this step? Should I have not? So now when you're coming out of that space and you're able to think of others and think of other situations beyond yourself, first of all, it takes you out of that circle. And you probably are finding your sense of purpose, because I feel like when you come out of a relationship, you're kind of lost. Right? You didn't, what happened. You kind of are shell shocked. As Verdell said, it's a very painful place to be. And so it's kind of like, where am I? What happened? And so when you're thinking of others, I think you start to think of things to be grateful for. It puts you in a more positive mindset. So I think just by doing activities like that, it helps a lot. And you can help other people with your story.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. They say a test is part of your testimony.
I like that.
Share with others what you've gone through, because some people really, they don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. And if you have a little bit of that light, you've gone through that tunnel just a little bit, you're able to really help someone else.
Yeah, so it's the best medicine. I know when I'm feeling really stressed or down about something, and I'm working with a client, I can put all of that aside, and it's just the best medicine for me. So I know it works for a lot of people. The other thing is really identifying people to support you, so you don't just turn inward. So I often ask clients to identify 3 people that they can turn to for support instead of just putting the covers over their head and ruminating. Who can you turn to? Give people an opportunity to be there for you, to support you. So important. Well, how does that show up for you?
You have your sister squad. I have my sister squad. So I have my actual biological sisters. I have friends. But when you have these positive people, your tribe around you, they really do support you through the hard times. They get you out of that space. Come on, let's go out. Come on, I want you to get out of this. So having those types of positive people around you, they don't allow you to kind of stay ruminating in there. So it's good to have like a sister squad. You don't need them. He doesn't come to you anyway. And you're jumping out. You're living your life like it's golden music, and it's a great place to be. But yeah, you definitely need your tribe.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it's recognizing that you need the help too, because some people, it's hard for us to ask for help. So I think you really need to focus on asking for help when you need it and recognizing that. And sometimes I think that's a challenge for people.
Absolutely. Well, I could talk with you girls about this all day, but we are going to have to go for a break. You are watching Have You Heard on Rude Rangers Entertainment. We are having the greatest time with you. We need you to share and comment, ask your questions, give us your thoughts. We want to know everything you're thinking about what we are sharing here. We're going to go to a quick break and we'll be right back. Come on right back with us to Have You Heard.